The big one, though. I remember, yeah, when I lost Terminator 3 because...
That's right. Originally, Edward Furlong was scheduled to reprise his role as John Connor in Terminator 3. That's what was meant to happen. After playing a young John Connor in T2 back in '91, and doing such an amazing job on essentially what was his first ever acting role, they wanted him back for 2003's Rise of the Machines. But unfortunately, Furlong was in a really bad place in his life, and this was due to drug and alcohol abuse. So it was written into his contract that they wanted him to sign a clause, absolutely no drugs, you cannot use drugs at all. Furlong said it was the best deal he'd ever been offered in his life. It was for millions. Furlong, understandably very excited about this, called up all his friends and said, let's go celebrate. And by celebrate, that means let's go get totally wasted on everything we can. And he went out and he did that, overdosed. He ended up having a seizure at the club. An ambulance came, and so it ended up making the news. And you guessed it, he lost the movie. The movie exec said, you've blown it, we don't want to do it with you now.
They're like, yeah, you're not, you lost the movie, we're not gonna do it with you.
Furlong apologized to ad nauseum, but it didn't make a difference because he had already signed that contract saying that he wouldn't do any drugs, so that was that. Furlong was around 25 years old at this point, and would go on to continue to have substance abuse issues in his life for several more years. However, of more recent times has certainly cleaned up his life and is now a father. That's good to see that he has cleaned up his life and he's doing good now. But just how awesome would have that been to have him in Terminator 3? That movie does have some issues. Like, some of it is really good, and there are some parts that aren't so good. We all know that. Personally, I thought the John Connor character just wasn't quite right. Nick Stahl did okay, but not quite there. Catherine Brewster with Claire Danes, I thought that was a fine casting choice. She actually reminded you of Linda Hamilton in parts, I found. Kristanna Loken as the Terminatrix, another good casting choice. But for me, the John Connor character fell a bit short, and he was like one of the main characters, so that was a real important one to get right. And it was this close to having Edward Furlong star in that movie as John Connor reprising that role. That's what was meant to happen. Just kind of makes you wonder just what would have that movie been like with Furlong in it. Him and Arnold getting back together. Obviously, he's like 12, 13 years older now. It could have, and I say it would have, made a real difference to the movie. But that's something we'll never know. Certainly would have worked with Furlong. I think if he had been able to get it together to do the movie, it would have just added so much more to it. But there it goes, guys. What do you think? Be sure to have your say in the comment section. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll catch you next time.